So let me start. This is our 9th or 10th CommuniZoom, a word I made up myself. And obviously, you know, think I'm pretty smart about that. Let me introduce everybody to Muriel.
Hi.
And we work together at PPD in London. And we've been running these community Zoom just hangout sessions every week for, I think it's 9 weeks. I think this might be our 9th. I think it is. It's either our 9th or our 10th. And most of the time I'll do like a little presentation and then maybe take people through an exercise just to remind us of our, you know, NLP and our resources, and also to just have a point in the week to get us together and cheer us along our way. I just want to say I'm very aware that people are in very, very different kinds of places. And so we try and hopefully make something that is helpful and cheerful and connects you to the bigger community, like in this little spot once a week. That's our aim anyway, just to say, you know, say hello from our heart to yours, from our kitchen to yours. And this week we have a wonderful, special, marvelous, lovely guest. And so welcome to Deborah Bacon Dilts. And the way that the session will go is, first of all, I'm going to just ask her how she is. And then Deborah's actually got some ideas and thoughts for all of us. And I think even maybe a couple of little activities to take us through, to bring us in touch with our resources and bring us mindfully into the moment. Mind-body practices working towards a sustainable future. So, hello, Deborah. It's brilliant to see you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Judith. Thank you so much. I'm really honored and touched to be here, and I just so love what you've created in the spirit of supporting each other and coming together for a moment of sharing and presence, and something that brings us in touch with ourselves and with each other. And I'm right now I have gallery view on, and I see people, a beloved friend who's just up the street here in Santa Cruz, people I love in France, people I love in the UK, and some of you, I don't know where you are, but it's this amazing feeling of being connected around this planet that Maxine has behind her head there on the screen. And really realizing that we all stand on this same planet is something really extraordinary to realize in our bodies. We are truly all connected on this same planet. So coming together like this is I think one of the great silver linings of this very uncertain time. And like you said, Judith, we are in such different places, you know, not only geographically, but in our own experience. And I was thinking, if everybody wrote their story of this journey through the pandemic, there would be really very unique stories, where our diversity of experience is so wide. And yet there are things that are universal. And so in preparation for our time today, I was thinking, you know, what are the things that really are common to human beings wherever we are? And one of those things is that we all live in a body, and this body lives in the present moment, and the body is where we experience whatever we're experiencing. Our thoughts create experience in the body, our feelings certainly are felt in the body, our body sensations are in the body. And then I was contemplating how much time I spend living not in my body, how much time I spend living in my mind, how much time I spend living not being right where I am, missing the little purple flowers on the side of the road, you know, missing the gorgeous moments that are actually all around us. And even with quite a long path behind me of working with body-mind practices, teaching a transformational dance practice called the 5 Rhythms. Now I'm training to become a mindfulness meditation teacher. I obviously am interested in things that bring me back into the present. And even with all that practice, our minds are made to move. That's their glory. That's their beauty. That's their incredible, their value is this capacity to project into the future, to imagine, to create, to remember, to go elsewhere than right here. So how is it, how do we bring the mind and the body in the same place, which is where we actually are the most resourceful? So that's what I was thinking about today, how to bring us present in very simple ways. And what I find really useful outside of any formal type of practice or any protocol that takes time to go through is just a pause, pauses throughout our day. And it is astonishing how hard it is to stop the forward moving machine and just make a pause during the day. So I wanted to offer a few very, very simple pause practices. And all pause practices have one thing in common. They bring the attention into the present moment generally by bringing the attention into something that's present in the present moment, which is usually our body. So just right now, however and wherever you're sitting, I invite you to bring your attention. This is the tool we use to bring our awareness somewhere. It's by turning our attention to something, bringing your attention into a place where your body is in touch with the environment. If you're sitting, that might be your chair. If your feet are on the ground, the feet are the most wonderful anchor to bring attention back into the present moment, because most of the time when we're moving through our day, they're on the ground, certainly when we're walking or when we're standing. So just while I'm talking, while you're listening, turn part of your attention into that sensate experience of feet or seat, or anywhere else that your body is touching, the chair, the couch, the ground, the bed, whatever. And as we stay with keeping the attention in the feet or the seat, we'll notice that the attention goes elsewhere. That's just what our mind does. There's a wonderful metaphor in meditation of training the puppy, that the mind is like a little puppy. And the puppy's nature is to go, just to go everywhere, all the time. So you say, sit. The puppy comes back. The puppy sits for a moment. And then it goes off again. It's gone. And you say, sit. And eventually it learns to sit. But it's the same way with the mind. And the thing about that is you don't punish the puppy, right? You're just glad when it comes back. So we're not trying to calm the mind. Fighting against the mind doesn't work. It's a losing battle. But inviting it again and again to come back is what eventually creates this attractor in the present moment. And the sense of being weighted, like having the keel of the boat more strongly anchored in the present moment, grows each time we make that invitation to come back. So that's it, a simple pause. While I'm doing something else, I can have a part of my attention just right here in my feet. Like as we do this, I can feel the sensations in my feet, taking more of the field of my awareness, occupying more of that space. So just notice as you keep inviting your attention back into whatever that anchor is, what might change in the state of being in this moment. Nothing formal, nothing complicated. In fact, the most potent practices are really simple, really, really simple. And their potency is in actually doing them. So here is another version, a little bit more advanced. If you'd like to stand up, you can stand up. If not, you can just imagine yourself doing it. I'm going to stand up. This one is very, very simple, but since we spend a lot of our time going about our day, walking around, This practice is just in the midst of going somewhere. So imagine you're walking. Just take a step with the right foot, the left foot, and stop. And once you stop, take one breath in and one breath out. And then continue. Whatever you're doing, going to the grocery store, wherever you're going, that's it. So let's try that again. You're on your way to the whatever, the grocery store, around the block, whatever. Walking, walking. And when you're ready, say to yourself, right foot, left foot, stop, and just do that and take a breath. Right foot, left foot. And really breathe in and really breathe out, all the way out. And then continue. Wherever you're going, go there. It's that simple. Right foot, left foot, stop. So that I offer you a little and quite actually potent, very accessible thing to do, but it's interesting to watch the resistance to do that. I'm on my way to the grocery store. I don't have time to stop to do right foot, left foot, stop. It's just extraordinary how much we are task oriented. So that little stop allows for continuing whatever it is that we're doing with more presence, and actually in a way with more grace. There's more of me here to be where I am, which is the only thing we have. So in this time, which is such a fascinating time where there's so much uncertainty, and as we are, I think in the UK, I know in France, here in California, we've moved from that phase of lockdown or confinement or whatever your culture calls it, to the loosening of that. And that puts us in a new phase of uncertainty. And that uncertainty and the way we hold it colors our present moment. So being more connected here in the present and opening to the future from the present makes our present moment less tainted by the things we imagine that we have no idea whether they're going to happen that way or not anyway. Yeah. So another pause practice is something that this wonderful Zen teacher named Thich Nhat Hanh, who most of you have probably heard of, an extraordinary Buddhist monk who's reaching the end of his life and went through just horrific persecution and trauma, and came through it a profoundly transformational teacher because he really walks his talk. And it's all about the present moment. And one of his offerings is to start the day. We all get out of bed at some point in the day. And the moment the feet touch the ground, not to rush off to the bathroom or to whatever, unless it's really necessary, but to take a moment with the feet on the ground, to connect with an intention for the day, open to a quality. May I live this day in trust. May I open to this day in peace. May I live this day in some way that would be a resourceful way to move through the day. And then breathing in, I'm aware I'm breathing in. Breathing out, I'm aware I'm breathing out. And another conscious breath, breathing in, I'm aware I'm breathing in. Breathing out, I'm aware I'm breathing out. And then getting up and going to begin our activities of the day. And I'm aware for myself that taking that moment to set the intention and to connect to myself at the beginning of the day changes the tonality of my day. And once again, these things are simple. They're just so simple, and they make such a difference. Judith, you know Lynn Conwell, one of the early teachers of NLP, a wonderful woman with a beautiful spiritual path and a teacher, a fabulous teacher of NLP. She said many years ago a phrase that both Robert and I keep with us, which is, you are what you practice.
Yes.
And I just love reminding myself of that. In so many ways, we are what we practice. If I practice spaciousness, I become more spacious. If I practice presence, I become more presence. If I practice complaining, I become more complaining. If I practice, whatever it is that I practice, if I practice kindness toward myself, I become more kind. So what we feed all day long makes a really big difference for who we are and who we become. So that's what I kind of wanted to remind us of. These very simple but really profoundly transformational small behaviors that we can choose to do for ourselves.
I love these pause practices, Deborah. They're really lovely. I know that you also wanted to share with us some of your thoughts about a kind of sustainable future. And I know from like at NLPU, our theme for last year was caring for the collective, and this whole idea of coming together, and somehow the way that we come together, providing a kind of roots and foundation, a kind of ecology for creating a sustainable future. I wonder if you'd like to talk a little bit more to that as well. That would be lovely.
Yeah, thank you, Judith. Yeah, my sense of that, of caring for the collective and creating a sustainable future, right now, for me, that is primarily how we take care of ourselves in the present, because the way we're taking care of our world or not taking care of our world is a reflection of how we take care of ourselves. And my sense of what has led us, not to the virus itself, but to the state of our world, with the global warming, with the divisiveness, with the race to produce more and more, and the excessive consumer consumption, and these things that have created tremendous imbalance. To me, they come from a fundamental inability to stay simply with ourselves and thus with each other in the present. And we've collectively found extremely destructive ways to avoid the present and to avoid being with ourselves and with each other fully. And for me, that comes from a lot of habit, kind of a collective busy inertia, a momentum that's got us on this wheel going so fast out, away from here and in the present. And during this time when we've all been obliged to stay in place, and for many of us, it looked like an opportunity to slow down, what I've seen is how many of us have gotten busier than ever. And I've been very intrigued by that. What is this all about? And I've been watching, of course, my husband is Robert Dilts, and Robert is one of the busiest people on the planet. And so we've been talking about this a lot. He's working harder than ever and longer hours than ever because he doesn't have the breaks of travel. So he uses that time to work more. And he's happy that way. But I'm not endeavoring to work more. I am endeavoring to slow down and to make choices that come out of a place of fullness so that I'm not driven into busyness. I'm not driven into activity. And what I believe has driven me into excessive activity, a lot of imbalance, even a cancer process that for me, I believe came from the deep imbalance in my life, is the inability to stay with difficult feelings in the moment. And that's the other side of being in the present moment. There's fullness in the present moment, but it's also where we feel what's actually there. And there can be layers of feelings that we don't know how to be with that make us kind of bounce back out into whatever habitual numbing activities or busyness or whatever, or even sometimes creativity. Creativity can be a wonderful creative process. It can also fuel a tendency to flee the moment. So watching that.
I know that you and Robert have created this amazing process dealing with difficult feelings. I'm wondering whether you would share that with us.
Sure. The process you're talking about, the holding difficult feelings, that, yeah, that, so this is an early process that Robert created fairly early on in NLP, based on the work of Virginia Satir. And they went down to observe Virginia Satir at the beginnings of NLP and observed that she asked her clients two questions when they were sitting in a family. She'd ask a father, a mother, a child, what are you feeling? So that's the first thing, what's there right now? Anger, sadness, fear, shyness, resistance, whatever that sort of brute initial feeling is. And then her second question was, how do you feel about feeling that way? Or how do you feel about that feeling? And that question is the one that prevents us from allowing the first feeling, which is a natural reaction to being alive, to just have its moment and move through. So if I'm feeling angry and I'm feeling guilty about feeling angry, I'm going to lock that anger inside. Or I'm going to not allow it to just be a legitimate feeling. Anger serves the purpose of informing us that a boundary has been crossed, or we have been disrespected or not honored. So that's important information. But if immediately we've been taught that anger is not okay and guilt comes in, then that anger isn't allowed to be the energy that it is naturally and that is actually beneficial to us, to let us know, I need to put up a boundary. I need to express something. So if it's not allowed, then it gets stuck, and it gets stuck in the body, it gets stuck in patterns, it can come out excessively, which we see tremendously in our world with the excessive violence that we've had in America for a very, very long time. Drive-by shootings, all the gun violence. For me, that is bottled up anger that has nowhere to go, that isn't allowed to be a natural response to being human. Same with sadness. So fear, the big three categories that we don't like and that we don't allow ourselves or each other to feel very easily are the categories of anger, sadness, and fear, and all of their babies. All of the different versions of those, different colors of those three basic human emotions, which are wired into us for survival purposes. They're absolutely necessary, and they serve a very, very important purpose when they're allowed to be natural responses. Sadness is the most natural response to loss. It shows us that our heart has been touched, that our heart has been connected. The tendrils of our heart were connected to the tendrils of someone else's heart or something that we loved. And when we lose it, sadness is the most natural thing. The body knows that. And if we don't allow it out, as we know, it will crystallize. And fear informs us that there is something we need to pay attention to. The body knows that. The body registers that all the time and informs us, that don't go this way. Oh, that way is safe. That way is not safe. The mind takes a hold of it and tells all kinds of stories, and then we get confused about the message of the fear. There's another person and very important in my life is Richard Moss, a transformational teacher who I've been interpreting and studying with for 35 years. And one of his questions that I love, another question that stayed with me like a mantra, is that feeling safe inside of you? Is your fear safe inside of you? Is your anger safe inside of you? Is your sadness safe inside of you? So how do we become the guest house? Rumi's beautiful poem. If you don't know it, I invite you to look it up. Rumi's Guest House, that invites all of our experience to be safe inside of ourselves, so that we become the domicile, we become the residence, we become the guest house where our own experience is welcome. And thus we can glean the richness of our own experience instead of having to control it or get rid of it or try to get rid of it, which we can't anyway. Whatever we experience is in our nervous system, so we may as well learn to be resourceful with it. And for me, and this is really this is actually a direct answer in relation to your question, Judith, about caring for the collective and creating a sustainable future, because this collective and our sustainable future is going to come out of how each one of us is able to be in the moment. And I believe, I was just reading a quote by a fabulous activist that I'd never heard of before in America named Howard Thurman. He was a Black man, an African American, who founded the first interracial, interfaith church in 1944 in San Francisco. And he talked about spiritual activism being about how we from these values of connection and love and kindness, we move into the world as an activist with those qualities. And I know there are many people endeavoring to embody and live that today. He's actually the one who said that, that famous quote that just about everybody else has quoted: "Don't worry about what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive and do that. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive." And imagine we had a world run by people who were actually living from their fullness, living from their well-being, living from their ability to hold difficult feelings rather than project them or deflect them, rather than to, divide and blame and accuse and so on. Imagine that. So that's why I feel like these practices are so they're not just these narcissistic, I want to feel better, it's all about me practices, not at all. In fact, they take tremendous courage to actually embody and live, because it means slowing down. It means looking at the patterns that have driven us up until now. And they lead to the freedom to choose. They lead to the freedom to choose our life, to choose rather than to react. And which reminds me of another quote that's another guiding mantra for me by Viktor Frankl, who was a survivor of Auschwitz and a profoundly transformed man through his experience. And he gave his life to helping other people. And this one that you've probably already heard, this is another plug for pausing. Says, between stimulus and response, so stimulus is what the world brings us, and then response is how we react. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space lies our freedom and the power to choose our response. In that space lies our freedom and the power to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and our freedom. So one more reason to stop the wheel of reactivity by these little pauses and think, is this really, first, what's going on here? And can I be with it? There's another practice. It's just these two questions. My teacher, Tara Brock, a mindfulness teacher who's a wonderful woman teacher who's also a psychotherapist and combines a deep understanding and 45 years of practice of Buddhist meditation and psychology with modern Western psychotherapy, has us work with these two questions. What is actually happening here? So that's bringing awareness to the moment. And can I be with it? Can I be with it? So that's another pause practice. Oh, what's actually going on here? And can I be with that?
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. I was saying to Deborah, I was actually in our local park, which is called Peckham Rye, and I just really felt what our group would love would be to hear from Deborah, and that is absolutely wonderful and perfect. Thank you so, so much. Can I ask you a really trivial thing now? Can I have a trivial answer? Like,
yes.
What are you most looking forward to when you get out?
I have to say, this may be very unpopular. I'm not looking forward to getting out.
Uh-huh.
I am so grateful for having to slow down. Yes. Our life with Robert is an extremely full life. We have houses in 2 countries, and I am so happy to stay home. It's the first time in my adult life I've been in one place this long. And so I'm in no hurry to I'm certainly not looking forward to going back to anything. I'm looking forward to creating a different future, which is already happening.
Going
But
forward.
actually, Judith, the one thing I am really, really looking forward to is going to a restaurant. I've missed being able to go out to a restaurant, order food that I haven't cooked, be served, and enjoy that. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. And yeah, and I just wanted to say I also never forget what a privilege it is to be in this moment in conditions where there's beauty, where there's abundance, where there's safety, and where the conditions allow, make it so that being home is really, really a nice place to be. So I'm extremely grateful for that. So I hope that's true for everyone here sitting in these little squares, that there's more goodness than there is strife, and that the strife be fertile ground for becoming even more skillful and resilient as we move forward together. Because that's the last thing I'll share, is this wonderful sentence by another spiritual teacher named Ram Dass, who passed away in December. He says, we are all just walking each other home. And I love that. We're just, here we are side by side. I'm just reminding us of things we all already know. And we do that for each other. We remind each other of the things that we know or have forgotten. And I certainly need to be reminded. So thank you, Judith, so much from the bottom of my heart for giving me the opportunity to remind myself as I remind us of these simple things. And Judith, thank you for your extraordinarily generous and grateful and kind heart. You just bring so much positive possibility and love to people, and just huge thank you to you for that.
Thank you, Deborah. Thank you very, very, very much from all of us. What a complete delight and joy it is to have you as our guest. Thank you for sharing so much and so deeply all those wonderful ideas and approaches and frameworks and quotes, and the fact that it all just comes live from you, from your heart and spirit to us, is just absolutely lovely. It's an absolute
thank you. Thank you. It's my pleasure and my honor.
Love you all. See you soon. Take care of yourselves. It's just lovely to all be together at this time. And